you so much, Ryan Nobles, for a great setup there for Senator Chris Coons, a Democrat from Delaware who serves on both the Appropriations and Foreign Relations Committees, among others. So, Senator, there is a lot to unpack. First of all, bottom line, do you think the Senate is going to go along with this? I know Senator Bennett has raised objections in the past when Ukraine has not been in the package, but the House is leaving for 2 weeks. I guess the Senate is as well. And are you all willing, do you think the Republicans even, some who have stood up against unanimous consent, which is what is required to rush this through?
Andrea, I'm confident that we will take up and pass this bill. Whether or not we can avoid a government shutdown solely depends on a small number of Senate Republicans and whether they will drag this out through the weekend. Some of them have been making demands that they get amendment votes on issues that are not directly relevant to this appropriations bill. It would get some attention for them, but it would fail to ultimately stop us from passing this critical appropriations bill. Let me remind our viewers what's at stake here. About $1.2 trillion in spending, our entire Department of Defense, nearly 3/4 of the entire federal government. This second group of 6 appropriations bills is larger and more strategic than the first group of 6 that we passed. This includes Homeland Security, Department of Defense, and my subcommittee that funds the State Department and AID. So I think we have the votes in the Senate to pass it. It's just a question of how long it will take and how cruel this process will be. As you just referenced, Senator Susan Collins of Maine, one of the longest serving senators, has never missed a vote. And her mother's funeral is tomorrow morning in Caribou, Maine. So there is plenty of good reason for Republicans to give up with some of the theatrics and move quickly to vote this afternoon and evening. There are many senators with travel plans either to their home states or around the world. There's a lot of important provisions in this bill, and I'd be happy to talk through some of them with you, Andrea.
Well, I wanted to talk to you about a couple of things. First of all, that UNRWA is zeroed out, as far as I can tell. And for all the criticism of UNRWA, and I know that 12 people were actually cited and, charged with consorting with Hamas in the most egregious ways, but that is not the 1,300 people that are part of delivering aid into Gaza, where it can't get into the interior of Gaza because of the war zones. And UNRWA is the only one agency that knows how to do this. Secretary Blinken has said that. So for all the criticism of UNRWA, to take it out, that's one thing. The other thing is that PEPFAR, which I know is near and dear to your heart, to mine, it started in a coalition with Democrats and George W. Bush. It has saved 25 million lives in Africa. Not only did the Congress not give, well, the administration did not put as much money in it as was originally sought by you, Bono, others, but even that has just been renewed for 1 year. 1 year. How can they plan anything for 1 year?
So, Andrea, we were trying to get a 5-year clean reauthorization of PEPFAR. As you referenced, it's a program that goes back decades. It was one of the key global health legacy items for President George W. Bush. It has saved more than 25 million lives, mostly in Africa. It's prevented the HIV/AIDS pandemic from killing an entire generation on a continent that before PEPFAR was genuinely facing catastrophe. If we get this bill passed, I will be traveling to Zambia with some senior members of the Senate, a country where 10% of the population is living with HIV/AIDS, and the United States, through PEPFAR, is funding the delivery of life-saving medications and building up the healthcare system in Zambia so that the Zambian government can ultimately take it over and take over responsibility for the health care of its people. You also referenced UNRWA, which is a UN organization that provides support to Palestinians, not just in Gaza. I recently traveled to Jordan and to Lebanon. In Jordan alone, there are 2.5 million Palestinians in refugee camps, and UNRWA provides health care and education and sanitation and food. And this bill does zero out, does pause funding for UNRWA until March of next year. It is not a permanent pause. I worked hard to make sure that there was still the possibility of our returning to funding UNRWA in some countries, depending on the outcome of the UN investigation into the shocking participation of allegedly now 14 UNRWA staff in the Hamas attack of October 7th. I did secure a group of us, along with the leadership of Patty Murray, who's the chair of the Appropriations Committee. We secured an additional $335 million for humanitarian assistance that I expect will go to organizations like the World Food Program, UNICEF, UNHCR, and other well-known U.S. nonprofits like Save the Children and Catholic Relief Services, to try and provide humanitarian aid regionally and into Gaza. But without UNRWA, it will be difficult to distribute. So those are two things. One last, if I might, Andrea, 12,000 SIV visas for Afghans who served alongside American forces, who are eagerly waiting the life-saving grant of a visa to come into the United States under a special immigrant visa status. Senator Shaheen has been a tireless advocate for this. Senator Klobuchar and I have been working hard on the Afghan Adjustment Act. This doesn't solve the whole problem, but it allows for 12,000 more Afghans to get a permanent visa.
Well, you've touched on all the bases very near to my heart and a lot of others, saving lives in Africa and elsewhere. Thank you very much, and we'll have a lot more coming up on that with Cindy McCain from the World Food Program.